The Isam Ferris Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs at the American University of Beirut opened its doors back in 2006 to develop the policy-related research of AUB's renowned faculty globally. Its director has said that, quote, "The goal of the Institute is not to simply to entertain people with nice lectures, but to impact on public policy." Well, on the line now is Rami Houri. Thank you very much for your time today. Rami, what are your thoughts on President Barack Obama taking up the reins from George W. Bush? How is the Arab world looking at this change?
Since the end of the Cold War, there's been a huge change here in the political foundation, the political identities, the national alliances. There's been change in almost every aspect of the Middle East. And this is manifested most dramatically by the rise of very powerful non-state institutions, militias, political parties, ethnic groups. And you've got people now like Hamas and Hezbollah and Muslim Brothers and Muqtada Sadr and big tribal groups in Iraq. All of these are huge players now. And they have political and military and economic power, and they're operating in the region with the governments as well as foreign armies that are coming into the region. So the whole configuration of the Middle East has changed very radically, and Barack Obama comes into power at a moment when most of the quarrels that the United States has are not with governments in the Middle East, but rather with these military groups, political groups, resistance groups, tribal groups, ethnic groups. So it's a completely different environment. And they need to be able to analyze the situation correctly if they're going to be able to make any headway in terms of addressing national interests of the United States itself, but also the national interests of the people in this region.
How closely is the Middle East watching Obama's moves? What signals does it send out?
He's made some pretty clear signals that he wants the United States' foreign policy in the Middle East to be different than what it was under Bush. These are only signals now. We don't know what's going to happen as the process moves forward. But my sense is that he represents such a significant element of change in domestic American terms that this will spill over into foreign policy.
Now, will investments in the Middle East see a surge, do you think, with Obama coming in? Will it affect the Middle East economy in any way, do you think?
The economy of the Middle East, I think, will continue to be driven largely by oil and hydrocarbons and also by the ability of the Middle East to plug into the global economy. The performance has been erratic on both of those levels. The critical element that you need is stable government, and not all the Middle East has stable governments. There's a lot of countries that are violent and turbulent and in the middle of wars. Foreign armies coming and going, regime change happening. So there's a lot of uncertainty about the economy, but I think what you're seeing is a fragmentation of the Middle East where you have pockets of rule of law and orderly growth and economic investment and cultural creativity and diversity, and then you have pockets of complete chaos and warfare.
Rami, do you think the governments in the Middle East look for a more stable economy with so much happening around?
You need to have a more orderly and legitimate sense of governance in some Arab countries where there's disorder and fragmentation of the legitimacy of the government. You need to have Arab leaders acting more intelligently and rationally, working together. And you need to have stronger links across all sectors, economy, banking, labor, tourism, education, at every level of society. You need to have more people interacting throughout the Arab world and getting the basic power and strength of these societies manifested in the policies of their governments, which is not always the case right now.
And do you think that governments in the Middle East countries have been successful in managing their economies up until now?
Yeah, I think one of the problems we've had is that too much has been left to governments. The governments of the Arab world are very inconsistent in their efficacy and in their ability to manage well. Some governments are very good, others are mediocre, and others are completely incompetent, verging on criminality and corruption. So it really depends on which governments you look at in the region.
And just finally, what can we look forward to here in the Middle East? What will this time of Obama's entry into US politics mean, do you think, for the Arab world?
This is a moment of tremendous change in the Arab world where power and identity and economics and force and media and education, investment, all of these sectors are changing very rapidly. They're no longer fully under the control of governments. There's a lot of wealth and power in the hands of private individuals, businesses, militias, religious leaders, tribal leaders. It's a tremendous moment of change, and we need to understand that change and to give people an opportunity through democratic good governance, through participatory, accountable governance, give people an opportunity to participate in the remaking of their own societies in a more efficient way than has been done in the last 40 or 50 years.
All right, well, that's all. We'll leave it for now. Rami Khouri, Director of the Isam Ferris Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs in Beirut. Many thanks for coming on Inside Business.
Thanks, Greg.
Well, that's it for this edition of the programme. You can contact us by writing to ib@city7tv.com. For now, from all of us on the programme, goodbye and have a good weekend.